Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to rethink something we use every single day, but maybe don't think about enough. Our resources. From the gas in our cars to the phones in our hands, they're everywhere. But what actually makes something a resource? Well, we're about to find out. So let's kick things off with a little thought experiment. What could a brand new electric car, like this one, possibly have in common with a simple stone arrowhead that's thousands of years old?
The answer is probably not what you're thinking. It actually reveals a really powerful idea about what a resource even is. And honestly, it's a concept that challenges us to rethink our entire relationship with the planet.
Okay, so to get to the bottom of this whole car and arrowhead thing, we first have to ask an even more basic question. What makes something a resource in the first place? Because it's not as simple as just digging it out of the ground.
This brilliant quote from a geographer named Eric Zimmerman is really the key to everything. Resources are not, they become. Just let that sink in for a second. What he's saying is that things in nature, rocks, oil, water, they're just stuff. They only become resources when we humans come up with the ideas and the tech to actually use them.
And this is the perfect way to picture it. For thousands of years, flint was one of the most important resources on the planet. You needed it for tools, for fire, for survival. Meanwhile, crude oil? It was just some sticky, useless goo that bubbled up from the ground. It only became a resource, one of the most valuable on Earth, when we invented the internal combustion engine. See? Human ideas turned a rock into a tool and goo into fuel.
So to boil it all down, a natural resource is basically any part of our environment, what geographers call the total stock, that we've figured out how to make useful. That could be anything from trees for lumber to the sun for solar power.
So now that we're on the same page about what a resource is, let's look at how we categorize them. Geographers put them into a few key groups, and this is super important for figuring out how to manage them without messing things up.
We've got four main types, and knowing which bucket something falls into is crucial, because you just can't treat a forest the same way you treat an oil field. They play by completely different rules.
The biggest difference here really just comes down to time. Renewable resources, like our forests or fish stocks, can grow back within a person's lifetime. But that's a big if. We have to manage them carefully. Non-renewable resources, on the other hand, like fossil fuels and minerals, they took millions of years to form. Once we use them up, they're gone. Period.
Then you've got flow resources. Think of sunlight, wind, or the power of a river like this one. They are just constantly being made by nature. As long as the sun is shining and the wind is blowing, they'll be there for us.
And this chart really brings it all home, especially for us here in Canada. Just look at where our energy comes from. Oil and natural gas, both non-renewable, make up a massive 80% of our total energy production. That is a huge number, and it's a pretty stark reminder of just how dependent we are on resources that will, one day, run out.
So knowing all that, how can we get smarter about this? Well, it comes down to the 3 R's. I know you've heard of them: reduce, reuse, and recycle. But what a lot of people don't realize is there's a definite order to them, a hierarchy, and some are way more impactful than others.
The best way to think about it is like a ladder. At the very bottom, on the ground, is doing nothing, just throwing it in a landfill. The first rung up is recycling. But the real goal, the thing we should all be aiming for, is to climb as high up that ladder as we can. Let me show you why. So, sending something to the landfill is the absolute worst option. That resource is just lost forever, buried in the ground. Now, recycling is a good start. It's much better, because at least we're getting those raw materials back. But, and this is a big but, it still takes a whole lot of energy to collect all that stuff, ship it, and process it into something new.
See, climbing one more rung to reusing is even better. Take a glass bottle. Just washing it and refilling it saves all the energy of having to make a brand new one. But the very top of the ladder, the absolute best thing we can do, reducing, simply not using the resource to begin with. Like reusing your towel at a hotel. That one simple choice saves water, detergent, and electricity with literally zero effort.
And if you want a perfect everyday example of why reducing and reusing matter so much, just look at disposable coffee cups. In Canada, we throw away 1.6 times billion of them every single year. To give you some perspective, the weight of all that waste is the same as nearly 23,000 elephants. It's just staggering. And choosing a reusable cup is such a small act that can make a huge collective difference.
But here's the thing. This shift can't just be about you and me remembering our reusable mugs. I mean, that's important for sure, but to make a really big dent, we need a much bigger change in how everyone thinks.
Real lasting change
only happens when all three of these groups are working together. Our individual choices absolutely matter, but they are also shaped by the products companies sell us and the rules that governments put in place.
Now, governments have two main tools they can use. Think of it as the carrot and the stick. The carrot is the reward. That's your city giving you a blue bin for recycling, or the government offering a rebate if you buy an electric car. The stick, on the other hand, is the punishment. That's things like limiting how many garbage bags you can put out or fining big companies that don't meet environmental rules.
And these policies have a huge real-world impact. For example, by setting a really strict fuel economy standard like this, governments basically force car companies to innovate. They have to design more efficient engines and electric vehicles, because if they don't, they'll face massive fines. It drives change.
At the end of the day, it's all about finding a balance. It's this tricky act of protecting the environment for the long run while also making sure that people have jobs and our economy is healthy. It's tough, but it's maybe the most important challenge we face as a society.
And that brings us right back to where we started. From that simple flint arrowhead to the super complex electric car, the story of humanity has always been about how we turn stuff into resources. Our choices today, the cups we use, the cars we drive, the policies we support, are literally building the world of tomorrow. The only question left is, what kind of world will we choose to create?